Welcome back into the Irish NFL show. Welcome back into our coverage from Radio Row, brought to you by Dooms and Drams. We're going to talk a bit of betting now ahead of the game this weekend. Obviously, our partner, QuinBet, will be very keen to see the money coming through this weekend. Scott Seidenberg joins me from VSIN Live, Bet USA TV, and that website we've just gone through, betterday.com. What a website. Scott, welcome to the Irish NFL show.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are enjoying everything that's going on, all the circumstances. You know, I tell people I come here. This is countless times I've been here. I've been in the sports radio industry for almost 20 years now. And every time I come, it's a little crazier every year. Yep. But you do have to stop and take a moment to kind of exactly. When you're patting down the sweat from your forehead, you have to take a moment to just appreciate the opportunity and what's going on here and how everybody is all here for the same purpose. And whether it's networking or just promoting the game of football, it's incredible.
Scott, this is my 5th Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Vegas was 2 years ago, and you're based out of Vegas. And today is chaotic in a way, because the Thursday is like a lot of people come into town, the honors on the team. When you reflect on this, even what Vegas was like a couple of years ago, it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger every year. It just doesn't, it's gone beyond, but you can try to manage the expectations of people who've never experienced it.
Yeah. What's amazing is that there's so many more outlets for content.
Yeah.
And that's why this has blown up. See, I remember coming to Radio Row when it was Radio Row, and it was only radio stations, not TV shows, and certainly not podcasts and webcasts and international broadcasts. And then more content outlets started coming, and then more people, and then more people. And then now we live in this internet boom age where there's so much content out there from a variety of sources that look at this place. I mean, it is a zoo. It is a zoo.
Chaos. It really is. People at home this weekend, we'll be betting on the game with our partner QuinBet, and I have a keen eye on quite a few things like betterday.com. We just spoke very, very briefly there. Just elaborate a little bit more on that website, because I even refer to one back home where you necessarily look for certain odds in the games. Because these days, what we find is, and you'd be very much aware of this, previously it was always about the handicap and the money line and the totals. Now we've moved into a world and an environment where it's not just about that for the person who's going to have a keen interest in the game, to have a rooting interest in the game, the prop bets and everything that comes with that. What you showed me there is so sophisticated. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. See, the goal, when I started betterday.com, and I told you, I've been in sports radio, I've been doing podcasts, I've been hosting radio and TV shows, I've been giving out sports betting advice for years now. The goal of betterday.com was to empower people to become better sports bettors. So I have different tools on my website for members. I have databases which cover, different stats from a variety of sports. And for the Super Bowl exclusively, I built a virtual assistant where you can ask it anything about the Super Bowl and it'll line shop for you. Now, you can also just go to the live odds page on my website and do it manually and search for all the prop lines yourself.
That's time consuming for it.
Exactly. The goal of all the tools that I'm building on the website is to put all the research that you would go to all these different outlets for in one spot. So the same thing that, whether it's forget about football, for my NHL database, you can go to all these different websites and you want to find out, how does this goalie do in the first period? How does this team do here? How does this team do here? I put all the stats in one spot for you. So it's all about empowering people to become better sports bettors on their own. Do I give out picks? Of course I give out picks. Everybody gives out picks.
We're going to get to the picks.
But the goal really for me is, if I can help you become a better sports bettor, whether it's by giving you the tools you need to succeed, or just educating you on how to line shop, how to find what's a fair market price, how to calculate your expected value, to be positive EV on your bets, then I did my job.
Let's get into the devil of the detail on Sunday. We've seen over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, Super Bowl, in particular, say the handicap spread, where it tends to fluctuate. Immediately, the odds are up after the championship game. And what you tend to see was the heavy hitters, shall we call them, they immediately on whatever particular side of the fence they're on. But gradually, over the course of the fortnight leading up to the game, you tend to see one line move from 2.5 to 3.5. I know last year, flip-flop between the Chiefs being favourites to the Eagles being favourites on the day. But yet, consistently over the course of the last 2 weeks, it's 4.5.
Yep.
Back home with QuinBet, our partner, we haven't seen it move whatsoever. Are you surprised that it hasn't come in a little bit or even gone out?
No, because the Super Bowl is the most efficient market you're going to find. Right? We've had 2 weeks to shape this now.
And yet we haven't had
Exactly. Which tells you this line is right.
Yeah.
Right? This line is right. If it was wrong, guess what? sharps would have come in on the open, which they did because some books opened at 3.5 and then it immediately went to 4.5. And then you've actually seen some books in Vegas go to 5 or a juiced 4.5, right? So it's a little bit more than 4.5. I'd say 4.75, something like that. So the fact that it stayed where it is now tells me this line is right. If anybody's going to come and tell you, oh, I'm going to win on the Super Bowl because this line is wrong. No, you're wrong, right? This line is right. So I do think it's getting harder and harder to find edges in the market, whether it's the player props or, derivative markets like first half, second half, first quarter, third quarter, things like that. I think that's where you have to dig deeper to find the edges in a market like this for the Super Bowl because it's as sharp as it's going to be. This is the sharpest game of the entire season. During the course of the regular season, you might find the Thursday night spread that's off. You might find a Sunday spread that's off. You're not going to find the Super Bowl spread being off.
Do you see a scenario where it moves at all over the course of the next few days? Do you think it could come out to 5? If I ask you a question, what's more likely for it to come in or to move off? If they have to make a decision by the weekend, what would you be comfortable with?
If it had to move, I would say it's more likely to go up to 5 than to go down. Keep in mind, we're at a dead number. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's
precarious 4.5. Yeah. 3.5, you could say, okay, it's just a hook off to the tree.
Football games do end on 4. We're seeing now the key numbers have changed in the NFL. Yeah. 7 and 3 are always king. Yeah. But this year and in recent years, it's been 7, 3, then 4. Yeah. Right. So 4 is a key number. So 4.5 is a line where if you want to bet the Patriots, that's fine. You take the plus 4.5. Yeah. What I would say is if you want to bet the Seahawks, I don't think you should lay minus 4.5. I think you're actually better off laying 5.5 on an alternate spread because then you can get a reduced vig instead of laying minus 110 or minus 115. You can get a minus 105 or even an even money spread. And the likelihood of the game landing on 5 is so minuscule that you're actually better off saving some money and doing an alternate spread. Do you realize that there's only been one Super Bowl that landed on a spread of 5? Do you realize that over the course of the entire, since 2021, over 1,400 NFL games that haven't resulted in a tie, right? Only, 59 of them have ended with a total of 5?
Which one
so
was
5 is a very rare number.
Was the Eagles Patriots by chance?
I have to go back and think about my Super Bowls. They all blend into each other now. But yeah, it's an extremely rare number. But if I had to say which way it would go, I would say 5. We have seen a sharp book in Vegas go to 5. Yeah. And the fact that it's very difficult to find a flat 4.5 tells me that the books are leaning more towards Seahawks at 5, or at least minus 4.5, minus 115, minus 4.5, minus 120.
I've seen some Seahawks fans who are very comfortable taking 9.5. They believe that they're going to win by 10.
I got to be honest with you. If you're asking me what's like, if we're trying to picture like plausible outcomes, I think there is a world where the Seahawks win by double digits.
Yeah. A 10-point scenario where a 27-17 type of
something like, exactly. 23-6, like something that's where the Patriots don't score enough and the Seahawks just blow them out.
Prop bets, obviously that's very interesting and intriguing piece for a lot of people this weekend. We're going to try find value for the game. Have you seen anything in particular people are leaning into? Like immediately before we even start recording, I went straight in for 2+ touchdowns. And Kenneth Walker is probably the obvious one, but some of Smith and Jigba, like the last one I seen, the value there was around plus 500, plus 600. I don't know if that's really enticing enough. What for you? Are you seen anything in particular that's kind of double digits numbers?
So like a double digits. Okay, so here's what I do. I can tell you the first prop bet that I did place on. Well, I did a game prop and a player prop. The first player prop that I placed was Seahawks backup running back George Halani to go over his receiving yardage prop. At the time, it was 8.5. That number's long gone. It's now 11.5 everywhere.
Still a reasonable number.
Still a good play because if you think about the opportunity, look at the NFC Championship game. George Halani ran 14 routes out of the backfield. Kenneth Walker ran 15 routes. But yet Kenneth Walker's props are being taxed because everybody knows who Kenneth Walker is. Yeah. And nobody knows who George Halani is. So his number's up to 23 yards, 24 yards. Halani's still 10.5, 11.5.
What's his rushing yards, interesting enough?
That's low. I wouldn't bet on that. He's a third down receiving back. Yeah. He also is a good blocker. Yeah. So they prefer to have him in on those passing situations because he's been in the system. He knows if Sam Darnold checks out of a certain protection, Halani can adjust the blocking accordingly. Now, as far as a double-digit prop, it's a long shot. It's funny you mentioned Kenneth Walker. I would not bet Kenneth Walker to win the MVP in this game. No. Instead, I would bet Kenneth Walker to score 2 touchdowns and Kenneth Walker to score 3 touchdowns. Because this is the same bet. Because if I asked you, what's the scenario that Kenneth Walker wins the Super Bowl MVP and only scores 1 touchdown?
Extremely unlikely.
It probably has to be a low-scoring game. He probably has to have like 200 scrimmage yards, right? And he probably has to do what JSN did last week, right?
Take the game on his back, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if he scores, if you like him to win the MVP, that means you probably like him to have a really good game. Maybe he scores 2 touchdowns. You can bet that at plus 350, plus 400. Maybe it's 3 touchdowns at 15-1 or 14-1, right? Now, there's also a world where he scores 2 or 3 touchdowns and the Seahawks lose the game and he doesn't win the MVP. Yeah. You give yourself outs if you do it that way, as opposed to just saying, I'm going to pick Walker to be the MVP of the game.
And we see time and time again with Super Bowls a couple of years ago, if it wasn't for the fact the Chiefs beat the 49ers, I believe Jawan Jennings probably would have been. Yeah. He throws a touchdown. He has a reception touchdown. Is there a player there, not necessarily that's going to be the MVP, that we're going to look back on Monday and go, even from a bet perspective, say, the Bobo's interesting for me. He comes up with a touchdown, and then people are suggesting, okay, he's in the passing game. I'm not totally sure that's the case, but it only takes one big play for him to get down the field. So
if I'm thinking of likely outcomes, right? The Seahawks, they can win in multiple ways, right? They can win if JSN has a monster game, if Darnold throws for 250 somewhat yards. You can also have a scenario where, like what happened where Cooper Kupp won the MVP because Matthew Stafford had a good game, but he threw 2 interceptions, right? So maybe a wide receiver
and comes up with the winning touchdown.
So maybe a wide receiver does get the MVP when it's not the quarterback. However, if we're trying to go long shots, again, I think the Seahawks can win this game in multiple ways. I favor the Seahawks. I would look at a Seahawks defensive player. Okay, it's very easy in a low-scoring game to see that maybe it's not an offensive player that stands out and does a lot, but a defensive player that comes up with the biggest play of the game. Maybe it's a DeMarcus Lawrence. Maybe it's somebody like that comes up with a strip sack fumble, recovers it in the end zone for a touchdown. It doesn't take much for a defensive player, even though it's rare, but in a low-scoring game, we could have that.
Well, I'll throw it into the mix. Super Bowl 50, Santa Clara, Von Miller.
Yes. Von Miller wins the MVP.
Touchdown, first touchdown in the game.
There you have it.
I remember it because I was on both the first touchdown and the MVP. And we're very leaning into the Seahawks here. I want to be balanced and fair to the Patriots fans out there that take this in. For the Patriots to win, what are you seeing from anything in particular that's jumping out right now from a Patriots perspective?
They have to probably dominate on the ground. If you like the Patriots to win, you like Ramondre Stevenson to go over his rushing attempts, his rushing yardage. So that would be like your correlated bet. If you like the Patriots, you'd be going on Ramondre Stevenson. TreVeyon Henderson he's fallen out of favor. I know his number's so low and it might be attractive to bet his overs, but he has really fallen out of favor. There was a great video that was circulating on the internet about how he's not picking up the blocking schemes. He's not choosing the correct path when he gets the handoff, and there's a real reason why he's been benched, and he only got a handful of touches in the championship game. So I would maybe avoid Henderson, but if you do think the Patriots win this game, they probably do it well on the ground. So let's go Ramondre Stevenson overs.
Drake May's over is quite high for 38.5, I believe it's there.
37.5.
37.5.
Yeah, you can find 38.5 and then bet under. That's great.
But you look at what he's done over the course of the season. The rushing yards are very good. I know the AFC Championship game, the adverse weather conditions probably play an impact. He was over 50, so I can understand why the line has jumped up. Is that appealing for you, or would you lean under?
I'd much rather bet his rushing attempts, which is still at 6.5. Because think about all the ways you can steal a rushing attempt. You can get a kneel down. Yeah. You can also get
quarterback sneak.
You can get a quarterback sneak. Yeah. And this is my favorite part. Like when I bet Josh Allen rushing attempts over, I love it because there's times where on third down, they'll do a quarterback sneak and they'll get stuffed. And then they'll do it again on fourth down. You can get two carries for 1 yard, right?
Yeah.
But you can also get a scenario where maybe they're just, he takes a couple of steps backwards to center a field goal chance, right? You steal a rushing attempt that way and then just scrambles. It doesn't have to be design runs. So I'd rather go over rushing attempts. But if you want the yardage, I would not play the over 37.5 or 38.5 rushing yards. I would play the over longest rush at 12.5 or 13.5, because while the yardage total has been taxed and that's risen to where it is now, 37.5, 38.5, the longest rush has stayed consistent. Every week it's been 12.5, 13.5, 12.5. So that people are betting into the yardage over. They're not necessarily betting into the longest rush over. That's the way that I would go at Drake May.
Stephon Diggs feels like a little bit of an X factor. What kind of line are we looking at for him for receiving yards? Or
I think if it's going to be, I have a hard time seeing the Patriots throwing the ball well. So I wouldn't want to go over any Patriots receivers. Maybe Hunter Henry, the tight end, who's at 39.5. He's a guy because the Seahawks have been vulnerable against tight ends.
Is he 4.5 on the receptions, give or take?
For Hunter Henry? Yeah. And you might get plus money on the over 4.5 as well. But I think I would avoid the Patriots receivers. The Seahawks secondary is too good. I mean, maybe Kayshon Boutte catches one deep shot down the field, but I don't like Diggs. I don't like Boutte. You know what? There's one receiver I do like. I lied. Mac Hollins. Now, here's a guy who is undervalued that no one's going to talk about. People are going to talk about how he walks into the arena barefoot and, and
the other stuff that goes on.
And all that stuff. But he is a guy that is very good at breaking off routes. And if you go watch some of his plays this year, he goes over his longest reception a lot. But on those plays, they're not necessarily designed routes. He breaks off the route when Drake May scrambles. So if you think Drake May is going to scramble because the Seahawks pressure is going to get at him, a guy that I like to break off of his route and catch a long pass would be Mac Hollins. I would actually go Mac Hollins over longest reception, about 14.5 yards.
As we close this out, I'll ask for, I think it's fair to say we know you're leading Seahawks and the cover. What's the hot take? What's going to make people reasonably rich come Sunday evening? What's your fancy?
Scoreless first quarter.
Okay.
Scoreless first quarter. High scoring second half. So go under first quarter, under first half, over second half, like over 22.5 second half. Seahawks win 27-20.
Okay, Scott, really appreciate your time today.
By the way, if that exact scenario plays out, I'm moving to Ireland. All right.
So we welcome you here. We can talk betting as part of our partner, QuinnBet, week in, week out during the season. Scott, really appreciate your time on the Irish NFL show.
Thanks, guys.